Looking to improve your life, brush up on your personal growth techniques? You are in the right place. Welcome to Life's Little Lessons with your host, author of Designing Your Own Destiny, Kevin A. Dunlap.
Hello, this is Kevin Dunlap with Life's Little Lessons, and thank you again for joining us on today's show. And today I've got a very special guest. This is a lady that's actually moved from another country, is now currently living here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I think you're going to enjoy listening to her today. She's got a wonderful, amazing accent that I think you guys are going to be enjoying. And her name is Murielle Fellous. She's actually has a company, a company that is called Date Like a French Woman, which is also her website, so datelikeafrenchwoman.com. And she is a relationship and self-love coach. Murielle, thank you for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this opportunity.
Oh, my pleasure. And tell the audience a little bit about what is it that you do and why is it that you do it?
So what I do is I coach women who tend to attract, those painful relationships over and over, and they don't know why. And some of them are so afraid to reproduce that result that they stop dating completely, and others would like to, they're active in dating and they want to change that. They want to really attract the love that they want. And why I do that? Because I used to be one of them. That's the best reason. I called myself the queen of dysfunctional relationships. I've been married into one over 10 years. And after a few other relationships like that, I was already coaching people, but not on love. I said, okay, something in me is creating those results. I'm going to go back and figure out what it is, or I'm going to stay alone for the rest of my life. So I went back, I figured it out, and now that's what I coach on.
And how long have you been doing this for?
So I started, I was already coaching women. Back in 2011, I used to have very small workshops here.
Okay.
And I was coaching them more on self-love. The relationship aspect, really, 2013, I started really focusing on dating. And from there, but the bulk of my coaching is, of course, going back to self-love because that's where everything stems from.
Okay. And you say that you only take on clients that are female. You don't take on any male clients at all.
I have a few men in my coaching, but somehow women are more, and they tend more to want to do the work. Somehow they end up coming to me. And I had a few guys, but it's mostly women. I don't refuse the men, but that's just who my clientele is, and you know how you have the ideal client in your business?
Yes.
She's a woman.
Okay, and I can see that as well because my ideal client happens to also be a female as well, because I want to help mainly women to follow their passions and go after their dreams, because a lot of women feel like they are trying to get started in a man's world and they put that one barrier up, and there's so many other barriers that they self-impose and put on themselves. So yes, my ideal client is female. However, I do have male clients as well. So. Okay. And Date Like a French Woman. Could you tell me a little bit about how you came up with that name and what does that name mean to you?
So the name came to me while I was meditating. I was like, okay, I used to have a business called As Happy as a French Woman, and I wasn't really happy about it. It didn't completely resonate. And I was meditating and it just came to me and I said, oh, that's perfect. Although I'm not doing specifically the dating coaching, like you should wear red, you should do this when you go to a date. I give a few advices like this, but it's deeper work than that. It's really going back to your core beliefs and what is creating the results in your life. And French, because I'm French, and there is an aspect of the French romance that I really wanted to infuse in my dating, because I think it's rich. We are a lot about, it's not obvious. It's reading between the lines. It's the way to be, that what they say in English, the je ne sais quoi, like that thing that you can't exactly pinpoint, but it's attractive. So I teach that to women.
Okay. And so you say you're also French as well. How long have you been in the United States, and have you lived in other places other than, say, France and here?
Yes, I left when I was 18 because I fell in love with Israel. I've been there on vacation several times when I was young. And I lived 10 years in Israel. I met my ex-husband who was from California. So I ended up in California and now in the US in Las Vegas. I've
Okay.
been for, wow, probably 18 years
In Las Vegas or
in the US.
in the U.S.? Okay. And well, that's very interesting. And you've been doing the coaching for over 4 years now. You said 2000, because right now we're in 2017. So 2013, you were doing this kind of a coaching business.
So I've been doing coaching as a business since that was 2011. But even when I was in high school, I had girls coming to me, and mostly when they were in pain from relationships. And the feedback that I always got was, you're not judging us, so we feel safe, and you're soothing somehow. So I've been coaching for free for years until at one point I said, you know what? I might as well get paid for that, and I might as well get certified so I can actually do what I love for a living. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm transitioning into doing that full time because I'm a single mom. So I didn't want to let go of my main job and jump directly into, what it represents as a risk to take that leap of faith with your business. Because of my kids, I'm transitioning stage by stage.
And I'm glad you actually just shared that with me, because a lot of people that are most likely hearing this show, whenever they're listening to it, they could be a male or a woman that they think it's all or nothing. But you're saying you can actually start small and take on the first client, one or two clients, and still keep your day job, your main source of income, and your, as you call it, while you're making the transition. And the transition may take weeks, it could take months, it could even take years, because you're just following your passion there.
Yes. And for me, just doing that, it brings more life force energy to me. So some people ask me, how do you do that? Because you do that in the evening, during the weekend. Just coaching and working on my business brings me more energy. So I actually need to sleep less. That's funny, but that's what it is. And if there was one thing I wanted to avoid, it was to have, that vibe of desperation when you start a business that everybody can feel. Yeah, you want the clients. People can feel that and it pushes them away. So by having a job where the income is regular, I remove that energy and that attitude from me, so I can attract the clients instead of repulsing them.
And that's a very good point that you're making, because a lot of people, regardless of what kind of business they started, I often see this with, and this is not to be disparaging or anything like that, but I often see this with people that are starting with a multi-level marketing company, is that they go out there and they get so pushy because they want to get that sale or whatever, that they're not actually being authentic. They're not saying, oh, hey, this is what I'm doing, and sharing it. But if you've got other sources of incomes coming in, so that financial burden is taken off of you, then you can be more authentic and actually be more of service, is what you're saying.
Yes. Especially when you say love, I always explain energy because I work on the brain level and on the energy level with people. So the energy is like an elevator, and
Okay.
you stop at the level at which you vibrate. So if you want to vibrate at the level of love, you need to be living your life at that level and not being afraid that it's not going to work. I literally really, I don't know, I'm elated by what I do. And that transpires. People can feel it.
Okay. And when you were saying that, a quote that came to my mind just now is something I'm thinking that you're talking about for the energies, is the quote is, what you focus on expands. So if you're focusing on the desperation, you're focusing on the negative, that's just going to cause more of the negativity. So with you dealing with energy work, you say, no, don't be focusing on this negative bad thing. Let's focus on this positive good thing. And therefore now, in a way, like the law of attraction, you're bringing it into you.
Exactly. And especially that people don't realize that we focus consciously 5% of the time, unconsciously 95 to 97, depends on the studies. So you may be thinking that you focus on abundance and growing your business, but in the back of your mind, behind the curtain of your conscious mind, you're running a fear. Oh, I won't have enough clients. I won't have enough clients. Guess what you're going to see, even at a brain level? There is something called the reticular activating system,
Mm-hmm.
which acts like a filter. You cannot see something that you cannot conceive or you don't believe. So if in the back of your mind, you're running a thought like, oh, there are not enough clients, I need to get one everywhere I go, that's what you're going to spot in the world. That's what you're going to create as a reality for you. And on an energy level, you're going to have a billboard like literally telling them, I'm desperate, I need clients. Nobody will want to work with you.
Exactly, and I've also heard of the reticular activation system as well. And the example that sometimes that people have shown to me was, let's assume that you're driving your car and you're hungry, and you're driving along a street that you're very familiar with. If you're hungry and it's lunchtime, you will notice that taco restaurant, that burger restaurant, that Thai place, the Chinese place, that all of a sudden will become your focus. Then tomorrow, you're driving along that same street, let's say it's right about the same time, you're not hungry because you had a big lunch or big whatever, but your car engine light came on. All those restaurants go out of your mind, and all of a sudden, mechanic, you start noticing all of that. So what you're saying, if even with using that as what you're saying with the clients, if you're focusing on that one thing, you're only going to see that one aspect. You have to actually step back and say, okay, let me just take it all in.
Yes, and it's the same thing when you buy a red car. Then you see red cars everywhere because it's in your consciousness.
Well, I just bought this new. Like I said, I just bought this new red, whatever you call it, Honda Accord or whatever it is. All of a sudden, you say, "Wow, there's a lot of people that drive red Honda Accords."
Yes.
Where yesterday you never even saw it. You never saw any of those. So.
It's true.
So could you tell me? I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. Actually, I'm going to dovetail off something you said earlier, because this also has been true with me, and I'm going to say it's probably going to be true with a lot of people out there. One of the things that you said was that you started doing this business in 2011, but you've been basically doing it since you were a teenager, and I think that happens to me a lot as well. Is people came to me even when I was in school. I talk about like middle school and high school, came to me for help and advice, and that was a shoulder for people to cry on. I mean, that's been going on for quite a few decades, and I think a lot of people actually fall into that category because you were being trusted for this one little aspect. I was being trusted for this aspect, and I'm going to bet that a lot of you listeners and viewers out there have people come to you for certain things, and that might be where, like what Murielle is doing right there, is actually creating a business around that, around something that you're the expert at, because that's why people come to you.
Yes,
so
I think there are certain talents that you have and abilities that you come with naturally, and I believe in a higher intelligence and a higher orchestration, and I think that some of us have a purpose, all of us have a purpose, but when you can really identify that purpose, those things you do naturally that you are excelling at, you need to have your eyes open and say, okay, if I go with that, things are going to be much more fulfilling and easier.
Okay, and so I'm going to go back into the area of starting your business. Could you tell me a little bit about some of your early successes? What were some big successes that you had? Even it could be with your getting that first client. It could be a big aha moment or something like that. Could you tell me about some of your early successes?
My early successes, so I had some personally, of course, because I changed. But I remember one of my clients is sticking really in my mind because she had been married 3 times in dysfunctional relationships with addicts.
Okay.
And when she came to me, she really didn't want to reproduce that once more. So we really started working together with an 8-week program that I had at the time. And she noticed that everything changed. First of all, she could identify what she didn't want after the 3rd date, sometimes the 1st date. And her relationships, her friendships changed. Even her clients, the people who came to her were of a higher quality, if you want, and less takers because she was not ready to give anymore to when it was not, both ways, when
Hmm.
it was not healthy. And I noticed that with myself too, because what I was doing in love, the way we are in one area of our life is the way we are in all the areas of our life, maybe to a lesser level, but still we're the same. And I used to have friendships where I was the giver, I was the one who always wanted to do the work on the relationship, and the person on the other end didn't want to do the work. They wanted just a crutch or someone to help them do what they didn't want to do. When I started changing, all my relationship changed. Even in my day job, I got more acknowledged. So it's a success all over how do you call it, all over my life.
Okay. And I fully agree with that as well, because I've done a lot of personal growth classes. And one of the biggest things that they talk about is how you show up in this class is how you're going to show up out there in the world as well. And that is absolutely true. So I 100% fully agree with you there. What about, could you tell us a little bit about some of your more recent successes, some of your, in your business?
Uh, Very recently, I held a class called Tap into Your Inner Beauty and Your Inner Sexy, and that was a local class here in Las Vegas. And one of the person who attended came to me and she said, I love that there are classes like this, but I want something continuous. Could you do something like once a month so we stay in the work all the time and we don't just learn it and then drop out of it? We have somebody to hold our hands and keep us accountable. So to me, it's really a success because that means that I served someone, I helped someone, and they're asking for more. That means I'm aligned with what I'm supposed to do.
And that's really good, because sometimes it is those personal acknowledgments from your students or from your prospects, even if they're not even one of your students, and just that acknowledgement, like, how much change did you do to that one woman, and how much is that going to affect her, and then what snowball, what chain reaction is that going to cause for other people just because of that one class that she took from you? So,
Yes.
so the reason I'm being kind of pointing this thing out so much, and I'm sure Murielle already knows this, but I just want to make sure that the listeners out there are hearing this, is that you have something to give, and there are people out there that want to get that need your help, regardless of if you think you're the expert or not. You're in whatever area that you feel that you're somewhat good at, you're going to be better than most other people that are not in that area. So you do have something to give, and people will be positively affected by that. And so thank you for sharing that with us. And now, of course, without successes, we all learn from our successes, but we also, I think we learn more, and I say this almost all the time, we learn a lot more from our failures as well. Could you tell me about some of your, maybe some of your earlier or more recent, I'm going to call them failures at the moment, even though um, you and I haven't shared this, but I have shared this on a previous podcast, is that in the subject known as neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, as it's used, there are 14 presuppositions, and one of the presuppositions is this. It says that there is no such thing as failure, just feedback. So every time that, whenever you have a challenge that came up and it did not turn out the way that you wanted, and it could be something that even caused you to a divorce, could even go into a bankruptcy, a loss of job, it could even be a big loss, that are still just feedback that you're getting from that. So could you show us, or could you share with us some recent feedback that did not go the way that you wanted,
Um, Recent, just
or early?
I had one that was really early when I started uh, teaching workshops.
Okay.
I had one workshop a month. And the nature of the business when you're starting is that sometimes people are not going to show up.
Okay.
I ended up ready with my material and everything. And at the time I was doing them in my house. So thank God I didn't have to pay for a room or anything. And I was upset and I was angry. And it was in fact a gift, because I had to reframe that in me. I had to understand that if you want to be successful at anything, in fact, if you want to be happy in life, you have to develop the ability to practice acceptance of what is. Instead of always resisting, like it shouldn't be that way, and all those things you tell yourself when you don't like the reality that you're living. Acceptance, that's what is. It's not good, it's not bad, it's neutral. That's a result. And maybe next time, make sure that you get yeses, like there is such thing as a real agreement compared to half an agreement. I've learned some communication tools since then, and I understood what happened. Because when somebody says, oh yeah, I would be interested, it's not a yes. You need to have a yes with maybe a payment in advance and a possibility to cancel if there is an emergency, but you need to get to a yes. And that was my lesson. I wasn't happy at the time, but it served me because now I know better.
And I'm glad you say that, because even myself, I'm starting to put on webinars and eventually some workshops as well. And there are going to be times that, this again for you listeners out there, there are going to be times when, as you said, nobody shows up. And you reminded me of a story that another coach that I used to have. He was my book writing coach. And he was doing basically weekly or monthly workshops where he was doing trainings. And then this one time he had this one training, and he had supposed to have a whole number of people show up, and he had one person show up. And he was like, he felt like a failure. He felt like, oh my gosh, because he was going to say, well, let me just go ahead and cancel this, and and maybe go have the guy come back to another time. And so he was feeling like a failure, but the guy that showed up said, well, he felt like it was a success. He goes, I've got you all to me. I'm not sharing you with anybody else. I got one-on-one time with you. And that was when a light bulb went off in his head. It's like, okay, this is still a success. And that actually became a client of his as well at that same night. So if only one person shows up, if nobody shows up, there was an event I put on, and with two other people, and this is when I was doing some real estate stuff, and it was me, I was a real estate agent, we had a credit repair guy, and we had a mortgage lender there. And we were doing this at a title company, and we had a whole bunch of people on Facebook and other social media saying that they were going to come, and we got 0 response rate. What do? We shot it anyway. We recorded a video. It's like, hey, we got a perfect setting. This is great rehearsal. So we just went ahead and shot the whole recording and put it live. And then I sent to the lady, the mortgage lender, I sent her portion to her. To the credit repair guy, I sent his portion to him. And then I had mine, and we had our own little demo reel. So even if nobody shows up, still make a positive aspect out of it.
It happened to me that nobody showed up, and the way I see it is that the universe is here watching me. I want to show up that I'm ready no matter what. I don't control the when, but I control what I do. And if you give your workshop or your class or whatever one more time, it's more training. You're better and better at it. I want to show life and myself that no matter what, I'll be there.
Okay. Okay, so you guys, there's no such thing as the failure. It's just a feedback. And another thing you could take about it is like, okay, what did I not do what was I doing that was ineffective? What can I do differently next time around? Like you said, have them more confirmations. They're not interested. They're going. Maybe they are paying a $25 fully refundable when you show up charge. I know one lady that I do a lot of stuff with, and her name is Lisa Sasovich, and she does free classes. She has 2 different classes she does for free, but she charges you $99. And when you show up, she'll give you your $99 back, and I love this, or the $99 will go toward one of her other programs that she's going to be promoting at that event. And she always has a charity event going on there as well. So, or your $99 can go to the charity event. Now, when she gives you your $99 back, or 95 or 97, whatever it is, I forget exactly what dollar it is, they will actually, if you want the cash back, they'll give you a $100 bill. So they're giving you more than what you're doing. But it's a great thing because it guarantees people to show up. And if that person doesn't show up, well, she just made $99 off that person.
And it's not only about us. I remember I had a coach who she told me something that I will never forget. I was coaching for free. And because I wanted to coach, and I said, but I'm helping people, and maybe, and then at one point they will pay me. And she looked at me, she said, you want to help people? I said, yes. She said, then stop killing yourself. When you give things for free, you don't help anybody because they don't value it. You really want to help, make them pay. And I don't know why it came to my mind, because you were saying about refunding the money. Oh, when you have some skin in the game, that's when you really are going to have more potential for change, because you're invested.
Well, not only are you invested, yes, and the client, the prospect or client is invested as well, because
Yeah.
yes, you're exactly right. If you go to a 3-day seminar and it's a free seminar, obviously there's going to be some kind of sales going on there because they can't pay for a venue and all of that stuff for free. However, um, if you're going to that seminar, what are the chances that you're going to implement anything? But if you paid let's say if you want to go, let's say even going to a coach, let's say you're going to go to a life coach and they're going to charge you $25. Then you say, well, I could pay $25 here, or I could talk to Tony Robbins and say I'll pay $50,000 there. Who are you going to value more, even if they're giving you the exact same information?
Yes.
You're going to, at the 50,000, he said, oh, I'm definitely going to be listening to what Tony says. And then that $25 person is like, oh, okay, I may make the change, I may not. So yes, if you don't, you have to start charging at one point in time. And this is what I've told some of my coaching clients before is, if you're going to become a coach, and you can probably see on the podcast, I do a lot of coaches here, is when you're starting out, you come up with the number that you want to come up with and multiply that by 4 or 10. Is that okay? I'm going to charge $25 an hour. Okay, so your coaching calls are $100 an hour to $250 an hour. And then when you start, you're getting that dollar amount. Another way that you know when to raise your prices. I don't know. I know you and I have never talked about this, but this I learned from a different coaches. When 5 people are willing to pay you what you're asking, it's time to raise your prices.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Because there's value out there. There's obviously you're giving enough value at that price point. So if you're charging, say, $95 an hour or $95 for a program, and 5 people are willing to pay for that, well, now the next program is going to be $149.95. So you're raising your prices a little bit.
Yes.
So just a good guideline to go off. And that's how you're going to find out when you're going to hit the top of your market. Let's say you change to 149, then you hit 179, you hit 219, then you hit like 279. Then when you raise the 299, nobody's buying. Like, okay, well, 279 is the price. that's another great way.
A personal work, because you get out of your comfort zone, because just by hearing you need to multiply by 5 or 10, your body is reacting like, oh.
Nobody's going to pay that. Like, well, in the because I have this all the time when I'm talking to my students, is most people undervalue themselves.
Yes.
That's why I say whatever that dollar amount you think you're worth, multiply by 4, 5, or 10, because your true value is going to be a lot more than what because you're going to say, well, this is common sense, and it's no. I mean, you're worth more than what you think. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And let's go ahead and because we've talked about some of your failures and some of your. Were there other challenges that you've gone through by starting your business? Would you be willing to share some of those challenges with the
Talking
audience?
about people valuing your time, your work. I had a client who once took a phone call in the middle of our coaching session. I told her I didn't want to work with her anymore. No matter if she pays you or doesn't pay you, because first of all, it means that she's not committed. She's not committed. And in that example, I told her just before, because I give assignments to people from week to week, and I told her to do something and she didn't do anything. I said, okay, that's the second session. Maybe she just needs more time. But then when she did that, I need to be able to respect and value myself if I want the outer world to value me. So if I accept something like this, I literally tell the world I'm worthless, because she can take some of the time that we have scheduled together to just address something else. So
Okay.
even when you have clients, you need to pick the clients who are compatible with who you are, who value you, and value yourself first.
Okay.
That's
And I like that because I know I have an accountability partner, and I don't always come through in everything that I'm saying that I'm going to be doing when we talk to each other per week, so we're each other's accountability partner, and so that's sort of a symbiotic relationship. So there's no financing going on there. However, I can see if you're being a coach of some sort, whichever industry you're in, the self-love, business coaching, health coaching, whatever it may be. If your clients are not doing their assignments, then they're not committed. And now, do you have any kind of policy in place, or would you recommend having any policy in place that if a client consistently, let's say 2 or 3 weeks in a row, does not do their assignment, and let's say it's outside, oh my gosh, I had a car accident and I've been in the hospital for the last 3 months. If it's not some big circumstance, do you have like anything, would you recommend have anything in place to say, hey, I even though you've already prepaid me for the next 3 months, I don't think you're doing the work. Would you fire them and possibly even refund their unpaid things, or not refund? I mean, would you let that client go? That's what I'm asking.
I would, because it doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve her because she's not ready. So she's wasting her time and she can build some resentment because she paid money. It doesn't serve me because then it's going to be someone who's going to, let's say she goes until the end of the program. Of course, she's not going to get the results that she wants because she doesn't put in the work. And then she's going to tell people, oh yeah, I worked with her and it didn't change anything for me. So it doesn't serve anyone. And what I do is I prorate. Let's say we've done 2 sessions, then I refund the rest of the program because it doesn't serve.
So if you've done 1/3 of the program, if you're working with her for 3 months and she's been with you for a month, and you refund her the 2/3 back. Okay.
Yes.
So that's good for all of you out there that are doing any kind of services, especially in the coaching fields, is to have a policy that's something like that in place, where because at least now she'll probably have better reviews over you. Say, hey, this wasn't working for me, and she gave me a refund on what we did work. So you're being fair, and she's not going to most likely leave a bad Yelp review or put negative things on there. Now, of course, there's always going to be people that don't do the work and blame what because they're externally blames, but at least you're doing the best that you can to help the person along the way.
And even for you to feel good that you're helping people and you're not just, you don't have any impact. You do have impact if they are willing to commit.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone comes to me, I always tell them in advance. I take people who are ready to do the work. If you don't do the work, we won't be continuing working together. I tell them in advance.
Okay. And it's good because now you're not, and again, for you listeners out there, by doing that, you're not coming from a sense of desperation anymore.
Yes.
Because you can say, hey, and I've done that before in my real estate field, because I used to do a lot of specialized real estate. And there's been a few times because I was working with finding owners of houses to find them a specialized type of tenant for their house. And if I felt like the owner was not a good fit, I have fired them before. It's like, you know what? No, I don't want to work with you anymore. There's been times when I was working as with a buyer, and the buyer was just being too much of a pain in the butt. And I said, you know what? I don't want to be around you anymore. You go find another person to work with. So usually I try to keep it in the same office, turn it to somebody over in my office so that my broker isn't done. But that's beside the point. That's too complicated there. So tell me about some of your upbeat moments, some of the big lessons that you've learned from being a coach.
Some of the big lessons, first of all, is that most of the time people teach what they need to learn themselves, because by teaching what I'm teaching, by coaching on self-love and coaching on changing the patterns that lead you where you don't want to go, I'm forced to apply what I say, because at least me, because I'm authentic and I don't want to lie to people and say, oh, do what I say, but I don't do it. So it forces me to grow every single day. And not really directly related to my business, but I remember a moment where I cried from joy And I have three kids. My oldest one is now in the university, but when she was 18 and I was already going for my dream, building my business on the side of my main job, she came once and she said she made an essay on the American dream. And I said, oh, great. Who did you pick? She said, you. I said, what? She said, yeah, you're a success. You came from a different country. Now you're a single mom, three kids, on your own financially, and you're creating your dreams on your side. I mean, on the side of your business, on the side of your job. You are an inspiration to me. And I started crying. I mean, just for that alone, I don't care about the business aspect of it, the money, anything. Just to see the impact that I had on my kid, that has no price.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest rewards, especially as a coach, is when they come to you and they are so thankful for what you've done for them. I mean, you cannot express that in words. You definitely cannot express that in finances. It's just that feeling of being appreciated and the fact that you had such a big impact on somebody else's life. I mean, I heard that just today on a Facebook message where there's somebody else I know that goes to the same mastermind that I do, and his girlfriend said that he kind of puts me on a pedestal, like me, but we're at the same mastermind. We're doing similar things. So that was a huge moment for me just a few hours ago. So. Now, if there's one thing that you would like to tell the listeners, because we're about to be wrapping up here, if there's one thing that you would want to share with the listeners about being a coach or being a business owner, or even on self-love, because I know that's your area of expertise, what one thing would you tell an audience member?
I would tell them that the biggest bully that you will ever encounter is you, and it's time to stop. Stop, do your best always, and stop the criticism completely. That's the first thing you need to let go of. Do your best and stop criticizing yourself.
Yes, we are all our own worst judges. So yes, stop beating yourself up. And look, and another thing I would say to dovetail off of your thing is we are also our biggest critics.
Yes.
And the thing is, I know for me, like when I'm talking to my accountability partner, I look at my successes as like, oh, okay, I did it, no big deal. And then she looks at it and says, Kevin, says, this is so great. Says, even this podcast started here. I came up with the idea in late September, put a date on it that I was going to do that in October of 2017. And within 3 weeks, I had 5 interviews already recorded, and I was actually going. And I just looked at it as like, oh, okay, no big deal. And she's like, Kevin, you're taking great action. Like, okay. So you have to look at your own successes and look at them as wins and celebrate those wins.
Celebrate. I used to do that too. I was like, no big deal, because people who are driven, they always go forward and they're like, okay, I did it. When you start celebrating, you build inner trust, and then you start listening to the inner voice, and you become bigger and bigger and bigger. Because you have wisdom.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. So Murielle, for people that are possibly looking for relationship advice, and I'm going to say most likely the women, because that's who your ideal client is. That's who you shared with me earlier. If you're looking for somebody who's looking to relationship help or even self-love help, how can they get a hold of you?
So they can go on my website, datelikeafrenchwoman.com, and I actually have several freebies. I have a club, Date Like a French Woman Club, which is free, where we have a monthly video call. The next one, they take place on the second Monday of the month.
Second Monday, okay.
Yes. And we approach different topics. Usually I see what are the subjects or the topics that women struggle the most with, and I go with that, but people can submit subjects or things that they struggle with, and we can talk about it. And it's not only a class or something where you're going to learn something, you're going to actually experience change in the moment, because we go through processes. We do processes live together. And the second freebie that I have is a lot of the women I know, I coach, are women who attract, those guys that are the players, the manipulators, the ones that really break their heart. So I have a free 10 signs that is not the one, because usually women see the red flags, but they just ignore it. those red flags you need, and men too, but my clients are women. Those red flags you need to pay attention to, and they need to be present in your consciousness. So I put a list of 10, the biggest one, the ones that you know, if you see that, run. And they can also access that through my website, Date Like the French Woman.
Okay, and we were talking right before the show here that you also have either some things that you're about to be launching, or at the time that you're listening to this podcast, these are things that you have launched. Could you tell me a little bit about those, or tell the viewers, listeners about that?
So the freebie, the 10 signs, is one that I'm just starting. I mean, online.
And that's as of the recording date of this, which you probably be launched by the time this goes live.
Yes, it will be on my website.
Okay.
And I really wanted to say, because my heart, because I've been where they are, my heart is really crying for them, because it can be really painful. I'm writing a book now because in my life, in my situation, it almost cost me my life to date the wrong guy. So I really, really, really want to help women, and I can't stress it enough. If you know what to avoid, that's already a big step, and then we can take on from there and help you attract what you really want.
Okay. So it's getting clarity on what is, what their past behaviors or past experiences, and then figuring out, okay, what are the triggers and what are the things to avoid. So, and then what else to be looking for.
That's the deeper work. But that list, for example, you can read it just before going on a date, because it's really concrete behaviors and concrete signs that this person is either dangerous or is not ready for a relationship. So when you know that, there is no point in investing your time, your energy into it. And that's not to be mean or judgmental, but your life is precious. You want to find healthy love, and we're not eternal. So be oriented, like we're talking business. I know people don't like to hear that, but love is like business. You need to be clear on what you want and say no to what you don't want.
And I actually agree with you again 100% on that, because I know in my past in previous relationships that I have usually been attracted to extremely strong women. However, I've also found out that most of those really strong women, I'm not saying all, I just said this is my experience, that I was attracted to, were also emotionally unavailable.
Yeah.
And I was noticed that was a recurring behavior. Then I realized, then I was starting to think about, well, these very strong women are very, very independent. They don't need a man in their life. And then when a man enters their life, sometimes it's hard for them to step down and not emasculate the guy. So therefore they just are not emotionally there. So that was a notice for me. So I had to make changes consciously on what I was actually looking for. And that's just from a guy's perspective.
It's always a match made in heaven, because even if it's toxic, we are like, I don't know how it's called in English, but you have those in a watch, in the old watches, you had those wheels with the
cogs
that was like this. So you fit into each other's patterns. That's not random that we attract this kind of people. I knew with myself, before I changed, I used to attract really people who are not faithful, who are not unavailable. And when I started working with myself, I realized that I was not available to me. I was all invested in the outside world, and the world is a mirror. Be careful what you attract, because this is a mirror of what's going on internally. That's a big clue.
And that's good that you said that, because I think I also heard so what you attract not only in your romantic life, but also as a client or as a customer or even as a coworker or whatever. It's more universal than just the person you're going to be going to bed with, or get married to.
Yes, I'm writing an article right now called I don't have the title yet, but it's comparing dating and networking. It's the same thing. You need to know who's toxic, who to avoid, who you want to attract, and who you are.
Well, and I'm going off because I don't want to be stealing any of your thunder here. I was actually taking a class a few years ago, and I've got a blog that was actually, I believe it was an earlier podcast in season 1. So this would have been last year. And it was a thing that is called the 3 lists. And in the 3 lists, and this is all about getting clarity. And on the 3 lists, it was saying, and this is mainly talking about relationship, but you can't say this with business partners. You can say this with friends. You can say this with whomever. The 3 lists are the following. The list number 1, there's your first list, is these are your must-haves, your deal breakers. If they don't have this criteria, and this has to be a deal breaker, there is no gray area. This is the deal breaker. The list number 2 is the important but negotiable. Okay, for an example, if I say I want to date a woman between the ages of 40 and 52, and a 39-year-old comes up and I say, oh my gosh, she's perfect. Okay, well, it's not a deal breaker, but it's still important, but I can negotiate it a little bit. The third list is the would be nice, but not important. I want her to be this way. I want to say I'm a Pisces. Maybe I said, well, it'd be nice if she was a Pisces. And that doesn't mean that is a deal breaker. It does not mean it's important. It just would be nice. So in getting clarity on that and actually writing this down, I've used to have on one of my whiteboards, like I say, as far as relationship, all 3 of those lists. Now I wasn't getting too picky. However, sometimes that important would be go into a deal breaker. Then it'll go back and forth. So that's just for me, getting clarity out there for helping other people. And like you were saying, is to continue on to possibly on one of your programs, is if this is a sign that this guy shows up in this woman's life, and she has to realize, okay, that's the deal breaker right there. He can't have that anymore.
And women, because of the image of romance that we have, that they portray in Hollywood movies, like you fall in love, and that's such, excuse me, BS. That's dangerous. Women would try to distort what is to make it fit because they want someone now and they want to be loved. And you need to really keep your head clear. Stay on your side of the fence. I always say, stay in your head. Don't project yourself in 10 years being married with the guy. Stay here and now and see. Imagine this guy who is just behaving with a very big lack of integrity, because I've seen that in some of my previous relationships where the guy had no integrity with his boss. Do you really think that he's going to have integrity with you? He's showing you who he is. Now, if you go further, you're going to be slapped in the face because he has no integrity. That's who he is. So be careful.
Yes, it's how you show up anywhere is how you show up everywhere. Yes. And that's in all the live personal growth classes that I've taken, especially if they're going to be experiential, how you show up in that class is how you're going to show up in the real world as well. If you're going to cheat on your boss, you steal money from the company, or you steal pins or whatever, well, what are you doing in your personal life as well? Because you already said it's okay at work, but what are you going to do in your personal life?
Yes, it's a very big sign.
Okay. Well, Murielle, thank you. I do want to say thank you for being on our show today. Again, for those of you that would like to work with her a little bit more, you can go to her website, which is www.datelikeafrenchwoman.com. She has some free articles and even a free monthly webinar or show that you put on, so people can sign on to that as well. So that's great value. I mean, you can learn so much more about yourself, about self-love, as well as and it's all for free. So if you're a guy or a woman, I know you're mainly dealing with women, go onto her site and just check that out. So Mary, I do want to say thank you for being here today, and I will be putting in the description how people can get a hold of you as well. So I'll be putting your website in there as well. And anything last departing words that you want to say before we sign off here?
Yes, just love yourself, and remember that life loves you too. So just love yourself.
Well, just love yourself. Thank you very much, Murielle. Well, everybody, thank you for listening to the show. You can also find me online at kevinadunlap.com. You can go to there. You can leave comments on this video or even on this audio podcast. And I know you can leave it in some other places that this is being posted. And again, don't forget, this is Murielle Fellous. I want to make sure I got that right. And that's www.datelikeafrenchwoman.com. Murielle, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, Kevin. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Life's Little Lessons with your host, author of Designing